Donald Trump has just dropped a political bombshell in a shocking statement that's now making waves across Washington and New Delhi. The U.S. president has claimed that one Indian individual single-handedly destroyed decades of friendship between the United States and India. Think about that for a second. For years, America and India were seen as brothers in democracy, united by shared values, military cooperation, and billion-dollar trade deals. They shook hands on global stages, exchanged hugs at summits, and signed agreements worth more than some nations' GDPs. We've seen the photos, Trump and Modi smiling together, defense jets being showcased, G20 meetings filled with optimism, and promises of a new century of partnership. The world believed this was a friendship built to last. But now, Trump says that image was a lie. He hints that behind the smiles and diplomatic niceties, something darker was brewing, an act of betrayal so deep, it could cripple one of the most powerful alliances of the 21st century. So, who is this mysterious Indian that Trump is talking about? What did they do that has the power to shake two of the world's biggest democracies? And is this really about one person? Or is Trump exposing something much bigger? About the cracks within U.S. India relations? Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll see that Trump's words might not just reveal a political scandal. They could expose just how fragile global alliances really are, and why one accusation could change the balance of power forever. The Golden Era, how U.S. India became friends. Before the accusations and the fallout, there was what many called a golden era in U.S. India relations. After the Cold War, when global alliances were shifting, India began a bold economic liberalization in 1991. The world took notice, and so did Washington. The U.S., once wary of India's long friendship with the Soviet Union, started to see New Delhi in a new light, not as a rival, but as a democratic partner in a rapidly changing world. Throughout the 2000s, that partnership grew stronger. The landmark 2005 civil nuclear deal opened the doors to cooperation in science, defense, and clean energy. Joint military exercises became routine. India began purchasing advanced American helicopters like the Apache and Chinook, marking a deep shift in defense trust. Economically, American giants, from Google to Microsoft, poured billions into India. India's growing tech ecosystem flourished. Indian startups thrived. Silicon Valley saw Indian CEOs as the future of global innovation. Together, both nations shared one silent but powerful mission: to counterbalance China's growing influence in Asia. By every measure, strategic, economic, and ideological, the U.S. India friendship was thriving. But behind this progress was one undeniable truth: global alliances are fragile. And as history would show, all it took was one incident and one individual to bring years of trust crashing down. This was the foundation, Trump would later say, and it was working beautifully until one move changed everything. The mysterious Indian who broke the bridge. Then came the claim that sent shockwaves through both nations. Donald Trump, never one to mince words, declared that one Indian destroyed everything. The world wanted to know, who was he talking about? Was it a high-ranking diplomat inside Washington? A tech CEO with deep political ties? A defense contractor accused of leaking secrets? Or someone within the intelligence networks of either country? Reports began to surface about a mysterious figure, allegedly involved in compromising sensitive defense data and trade communications. According to some sources, this individual had shared information with rival nations, breaching the fragile trust that held U.S. India cooperation together. Others claimed it was about breaching trade commitments or favoring non-U.S. defense suppliers, actions Washington viewed as betrayal. Trump's framing was blunt. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was sabotage from within the alliance. That single sentence ignited a media frenzy. Indian journalists demanded names. American analysts speculated endlessly on cable news. Was this claim factual or just another Trumpian strategy to stir nationalist emotion ahead of elections? Regardless of the truth, one thing was clear: the image of a perfect U.S. India friendship had cracked. And whether this one Indian existed or not, the idea of betrayal was enough to change how both sides looked at each other. It wasn't just about one person, a Washington insider said. It was about the message that even allies can become liabilities. Trump's revelation, the moment everything changed. It happened suddenly, a late-night Truth Social post, and a fiery interview the next day. Trump said it plainly. India was our friend, but one of their own destroyed everything. It was classic Trump, direct, dramatic, and impossible to ignore. Within hours, global headlines exploded. Cable networks replayed his speech on loop. Indian officials scrambled to understand who he was referring to and what he meant. Some in Washington dismissed it as another exaggerated claim, a political maneuver to push his America First narrative ahead of elections. Others, however, took it seriously, citing recent tensions in defense procurement and data-sharing agreements. Was Trump revealing a classified dispute, or simply using India's name to highlight American vulnerability? Whatever the motive, his words struck deep. Analysts warned the comment could undermine trust between the two nations, just as they were negotiating multi-billion-dollar defense and semiconductor deals. Diplomats in both capitals were caught off guard. Suddenly, India, once the strategic darling of the U.S., was cast under suspicion. Trump's timing was no coincidence. His statement arrived amid rising public debate over whether America should depend so heavily on foreign allies for technology and defense manufacturing. In one sentence, he didn't just question India's reliability. He redefined the conversation about global alliances. And from that moment, the fallout was unstoppable. The fallout, diplomatic firestorm. The political world erupted. Within 24 hours of Trump's comment, Indian and American officials were in emergency talks. The U.S. ambassador in New Delhi sought clarification. India's foreign ministry demanded evidence behind the accusation. Behind closed doors, the atmosphere was tense. Planned trade discussions were abruptly postponed. A few defense procurement meetings were rescheduled indefinitely. Even joint military exercises faced uncertainty, as both sides navigated an awkward silence. In Washington, the Pentagon released a cautious statement, reaffirming that India remains a valued defense partner. In Delhi, the government insisted, "Our record of cooperation with the U.S. is transparent and trustworthy." But the damage was done. American investors briefly pulled back from Indian markets. Spooked by fears of political tension, Indian tech companies fielded uneasy questions from their U.S. clients. Meanwhile, the Indian diaspora, millions strong across America, suddenly found themselves explaining on social media, "What's going on between our countries?" For many ordinary people, it felt personal. After years of growing closeness, symbolized by Modi's grand rallies in U.S. cities, and Indian engineers shaping the digital economy, the idea of distrust stung deeply. Trump's statement didn't just question a person, it questioned a partnership, one built on decades of diplomacy, investment, and mutual respect. And in moments like these, even the strongest friendships can begin to fracture. India strikes back, official denials, and damage control. New Delhi wasted no time responding. Within hours, the Indian government issued a formal denial, calling Trump's claims baseless, politically motivated, and contrary to the facts. Spokespersons emphasized India's collaboration with the U.S., from defense to digital, was transparent and built on mutual trust. Behind the scenes, diplomats reached out to American officials, urging restraint and warning against domestic politics spilling into international alliances. Meanwhile, Indian media went into overdrive to boost his campaign. Others suggested there could indeed be internal lapses that embarrassed the government, though no concrete evidence emerged. The supposed one Indian, if there even was one, released a public statement claiming innocence, calling themselves a scapegoat in a political narrative far beyond my control. Public sentiment in India was divided. Some were furious at what they saw as Trump's arrogance. How dare he blame one of us? Others were quietly uneasy, wondering if there was truth behind the accusation. On social media, hashtags like #StandWithIndia and #TrumpLiesAgain trended for days. But beneath the outrage was a quieter fear that the trust built between these two democracies could fade faster than anyone imagined. The deeper issues, flaws in the alliance. When the storm around Trump's accusation finally settled, analysts began asking a harder question. Was this really about one Indian? Or had the cracks been there all along? For years, experts warned that beneath the glossy photo ops and trade summits, India relationship was built on uneven expectations. Washington wanted India to align closely against China, to be the democratic counterweight in Asia. But New Delhi, fiercely protective of its strategic autonomy, refused to be anyone's junior partner. Then came the other irritants: visa restrictions on Indian professionals, tariff disputes over American goods, sanctions that penalized India for buying defense equipment from Russia. Each disagreement quietly eroded trust, even as public leaders continued smiling for the cameras. In tech and defense circles, data privacy and intelligence sharing were constant sticking points. The US demanded transparency. India feared surveillance. As one foreign policy analyst put it bluntly, the problem wasn't T1 Indian. It was decades of unrealistic expectations on both sides. Trump's accusation, then, might have simply exposed deeper fractures. The difference between two democracies that admired each other, but never fully understood one another's priorities. The truth is, alliances rarely collapse overnight. They weaken slowly, through unmet promises, mismatched goals, and the quiet erosion of trust. And in that sense, Trump's outburst wasn't just an explosion. It was a spotlight on what had been simmering all along. Global ripple effect: how the world reacted. The world wasted no time reacting to the diplomatic earthquake. China and Russia, longtime observers of U.S.-India cooperation, could barely hide their satisfaction. State media headlines mocked the rift. The democracies fight while Eurasia unites. For Beijing, it was a strategic win. A weakened U.S.-India bond meant less pressure in the Indo-Pacific. Moscow, too, saw an opening to reaffirm defense and energy ties with New Delhi, subtly reminding India, "We never doubted you." But not everyone celebrated. Israel and Japan, two of India's closest partners, quietly urged restraint. Both countries viewed the U.S.-India alliance as essential for balancing China's power in the region. A breakdown could unravel years of Indo-Pacific strategy. Meanwhile, the European Union saw opportunity. European diplomats began courting India more aggressively, offering trade and tech cooperation as alternatives to U.S. dependence. Across Asia, smaller nations like Vietnam and the Philippines watched closely, nations that had looked to India as a stabilizing democratic partner. If even India could lose Washington's trust, what did that mean for them? In the U.S., the domestic debate turned fierce. Some conservatives argued, Trump is exposing spies and traitors. Others warned, he's sabotaging an ally for political drama. Around the world, the question echoed, can India still be trusted as a reliable ally? Or has Trump changed that perception forever? And just like that, one statement had reshaped how the world viewed not only India, but the entire balance of power in Asia. The economic and tech shockwave, what began as a political feud, soon turned into an economic tremor. Global investors hate uncertainty, and Trump's explosive claim created plenty of it. Almost overnight, billions in trade and tech deals were put under review. American companies that had long seen India as their next big manufacturing and AI hub began to hesitate. "Let's wait and see where this goes," became the new corporate mantra. India's booming tech startup ecosystem, once fueled by U.S. venture capital, suddenly faced skeptical investors. Some deals froze mid-negotiation. The ripple effect reached the stock market, where confidence wavered. Commentators warned of a chilling reality. A single accusation can wipe out years of economic goodwill. In the defense sector, whispers of trust issues surfaced. Collaborative projects on drones and AI defense tech saw temporary reviews. Indian exports to the U.S. dipped slightly in the following quarter, signaling global unease. Meanwhile, China seized the opportunity. Beijing began pitching itself once again as a stable manufacturing partner to Western investors rattled by political drama. Even countries like Vietnam and Indonesia subtly benefited, attracting business that might have gone to India. The irony was hard to miss. Trump's attempt to call out one person had inadvertently shaken India's global business reputation, something it had spent decades building. Once again, politics had outpaced economics, and the cost of a statement began to feel very real. Public perception, people versus politics. As politicians debated and analysts speculated, the real conversation unfolded in the streets and online. In Delhi, cafe discussions turned emotional. "Trump was our friend," said one student. "Why would he say that?" Others shot back, "He's just playing politics. We shouldn't take it personally." In Washington, Indian Americans found themselves caught in the middle. Some defended Trump's stance. If there was betrayal, he has every right to expose it. Others felt disheartened. We helped build bridges between both nations. Now it feels like we're being blamed for one man's politics. Social media turned into a battleground. Indian youth flooded Twitter with posts like, "Why are we all being blamed for one person?" American users countered with hashtags like #ProtectOurAllies and #StopTheLeaks. Yet amid all the noise, one truth stood out. Ordinary people didn't want hostility. The emotional bond between Indians and Americans, built through Bollywood crossovers, tech collaborations, and diaspora pride, remained strong. Cultural exchange still thrived. Indian food festivals in New York, yoga retreats in California, Hollywood partnerships with Indian studios continued undisturbed. As one tweet put it perfectly, governments argue, but the people still connect. That sentiment reflected something deeper. The real question, why Trump spoke now? Every time the president speaks, the world listens. Not just because of what he says, but why he says it. His recent claim about one Indian destroying U.S. India relations has left analysts scrambling for meaning. Was it simply a truth bomb or a calculated political move? Some experts believe it's pure election strategy. With another U.S. election cycle looming, Trump may be signaling toughness on foreign policy, proving he won't go soft on allies if American interests are at stake. For his base, that kind of defiance plays well. Others see it as an attempt to pressure President Biden's India outreach. Biden has doubled down on deepening defense and technology ties with New Delhi. By stirring controversy, Trump forces the current administration into a defensive position, questioning whether Washington can truly trust India. Then there's the personal angle. Trump has a history of clashing with global business elites, some of whom are Indian billionaires involved in major U.S. deals. Could this be a subtle vendetta disguised as diplomacy? Timing also matters. His statement came just as U.S. China tensions escalated. Accusing India at such a moment might deflect blame for geopolitical instability, shifting focus away from China's growing influence. And of course, the U.S. president knows how to dominate headlines. In a week full of domestic controversies, his words turned the global spotlight back to him. As one political commentator summed it up, Trump's words are rarely accidental. There's always a political payoff. So the real question remains, did Trump reveal the truth or just weaponize it? What this says about trust and power. When you strip away the politics, the tweets, and the noise, one truth becomes clear: global alliances are fragile. Sometimes, all it takes is a sentence, one accusation, to shake the foundations of years of partnership. The U.S. India relationship has always been about more than trade or defense. It's been about trust. Two democracies trying to navigate a world where loyalty is often tested by self-interest. For decades, both sides managed that balance. But Trump's revelation, real or not, exposed how quickly that balance can crumble. It also highlights something deeper about power in the modern world. Power is no longer just about armies or GDP. It's about credibility, reputation, and the ability to be believed. When a global leader speaks, especially one as influential as Trump, markets shift, alliances tremble, and ordinary people begin to question what's real. Maybe this wasn't really about one Indian at all. Maybe it was a warning, a reminder of how thin the fabric of global cooperation truly is. As one analyst put it, friendship between nations isn't measured in handshakes. It's tested in moments of doubt. So here's the question. Can U.S. India relations survive this storm? Or will this moment go down as the point where trust gave way to suspicion? In the end, it's not just about what Trump said. It's about what his words revealed, how fragile power really is when it's built on perception. So let's recap. Donald Trump's shocking accusation that one Indian individual destroyed decades of U.S. India friendship sent ripples across the world. It exposed political tensions, rattled markets, divided opinions, and forced both nations to confront uncomfortable questions. Questions about loyalty, influence, and ambition. But beyond the headlines and viral clips lies a deeper story about how easily trust can be broken and how global power often depends not on facts, but on who controls the narrative. The U.S. and India once stood as beacons of democracy, united by values, trade, and mutual respect. Today, that friendship faces one of its toughest tests yet. Will it survive? Or has Trump's revelation permanently changed how these two nations see each other? Maybe, just maybe, this isn't the end, but a turning point. A moment for both sides to rebuild trust, redefine priorities, and prove that friendship can outlast politics. Because in the age of social media and 24-hour news, truth moves fast, but rumors move faster. So now, we leave it to you. Do you think Trump told the truth, or was it all politics? Can one person really destroy a relationship between two global superpowers? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this story eye-opening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this isn't over. The truth behind Trump's revelation might still be waiting to surface. And when it does, you'll want to be here to see it unfold.